There's an author I find very interesting, and that a lot of people find very interesting, named Chuck Tingle. This isn't their real name. They're famously anonymous and have presented an entirely fictional story for their audience, but this isn't the part I want to talk about. The part that I think is so interesting about Chuck Tingle is that they cut their teeth writing not literature, but weird gay erotica. I haven't read any of that stuff because no thank you, but I have read one of his novels, Camp Damascus, a thriller about growing up in a cult. I liked a lot of things about this book. It was competently written, especially in the first 2/3 and the part in which the pieces of the mystery all came together. I realized then that writing anything is still practice writing. Even if it's not great literature, if you practice stringing your words together to convey information to someone else, you're going to get better at it. Hi everyone, my name is Chloe and I make videos commenting on things I care about. And today the thing I care about is the writing process and specifically how writing changes you. I've been doing this since 2019, so about 6 years, and in a more qualitative sense, I've been doing this since I finished my first graduate degree. I found myself with some spare time and lots of opinions, and inspired by PhilosophyTube, Legal Eagle, and Jarvis Johnson and some others, I started making videos about the thing I had just been trained in. Obviously, since then I've changed my content and approach a bit, but there's one thing that's felt very consistent over time, and that's how it feels to have something on my mind that I want to organize and put words to, and how it feels to get to the end of that process, trusting that the words I've used to communicate the idea are fixed in place and understandable for an audience. Over time, my ability to turn ideas into strings of words has expanded, and I attribute that in large part to the fact that I've made writing a habit. In the year between my MA History program and my MA Teaching program, making these videos became one of my main hobbies. I'd spend hours every week researching and drafting my video scripts, and as I entered school again, I was worried that my writing would be an issue, the way it had been after taking a gap year between college and grad school, when I came back to school extremely rusty. But I found that I was not only in practice when it came to organizing my ideas and committing them to paper, but that my ability to write had improved in my year out of school. I was just coming out of my most pretentious era on YouTube, in which I made videos titled things like Lens, and incorporated lots of scholarly research into my videos, so I was able to hit the ground running with my schoolwork. The other benefit that I found was that when I'm in practice with my writing, I'm also better at making connections between ideas. For example, in that first semester of grad school, I had a class in developmental psychology in which we had to write a paper on topics in childhood development as they're depicted in a movie or a TV show. I planned on doing mine on adolescence since I wanted to teach high school, but while going through the middle childhood section, which is ages 8 to 12 or tween years, I realized that an incredible number of those ideas had been explored in Arthur. So with 2 days to spare on the middle childhood unit, I emailed my professor like, "Hi, I was planning to write my paper on adolescence, which is why I'm emailing you so late in the unit, but I was just thinking about the course content and I'd really like to write a paper for you on Arthur. I know it's not on the list of movies and shows you provided, but I think it works for what the assignment's doing." She emailed me back saying, "Go for it, and take some extra time if you need it. There's no rush on this assignment since we're nowhere near the end of the semester." I said thank you and sat down to write the 8-page paper in one evening. I got like a 98% or something ridiculous like that, and I attribute it in large part to the fact that I was in the habit of writing and could easily organize my ideas and translate my ideas onto paper. Let me know if you'd like me to turn that paper into a video. Since then, I've really branched out in terms of the kinds of videos I write. I try to keep the whole process as organic as possible in that I only write when I have something to say. I more or less refuse to make content for the sake of hearing my own voice, getting views, growing the channel, or any other extrinsic reward. What that means in practice is that when I have an idea and I think it's a good idea, I start writing it out. Sometimes it turns into a video. Other times I realize just how wrong I was or how little I had to say on a topic. But no matter the outcome, it gets me more in touch with what my ideas are on the topics I care about and more able to refine and communicate them. As I've practiced this, I found that I'm more able to work with more complicated ideas with increasing levels of nuance. My ideas are no longer a jumbled set of beliefs in my own mind, but ones that I can make more concrete by shaping them with words for the purposes of giving myself reality checks when needed and sharing them when I'm ready. Wow. Wow. All of this has built up into a real skill that I use all the time. In addition to writing video scripts for YouTube, I write resumes and help people with personal statements for college, and at work I craft training materials and other deliverables. I attribute the development of these skills to the consistent practice of getting my ideas down and creating and meeting self-imposed deadlines. Without this structure and discipline, I wouldn't have the consistent practice that facilitates and sustains this kind of growth. I realize that not everybody wants to put their thoughts online, but if you want to discipline your mind and learn to organize your thoughts, I can't recommend anything more than I recommend making a regular practice of writing down the things you care about and would want, at least hypothetically, to communicate to others, organizing them, exploring them, and fully understanding them. Doing this will give you transferable skills for so many opportunities in life, and you'll never have to worry about being rusty if you go back to school or have to write reports for work. In fact, you can grow to rely on it to be your superpower too. Thank you for watching. I recently hit 500 subscribers, which I know isn't a huge number or anything, but it is a milestone I low-key thought I'd never achieve back when I started out. You know, I'd get a handful of views and maybe a comment on each of my videos, and that was amazing, but I didn't make videos for that. I made videos to get my ideas out of my head and put them somewhere so I could stop thinking about them so much. It's really cool that you guys seem to like what I have to say and want to stick around for more. Thank you so much for joining me to talk about gender, politics, books, has-been, hotel, travel, and all the other things we've chatted about and bonded over. It's been fun, and I really enjoy our chats in the comments section. So I'll see you guys in the next one. That may be about Revolutionary Girl Utena and maybe about Chapel Roan's The Giver. It's up in the air and we'll have to see what happens. Regardless, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.